Hi! Today I want to share part 2 of knitting a onesie. So here we are, and this time I just want you to finish making the body, and what you should have is something that looks like this until the legs. So basically you do the yoke part, and then you do the body part, and then you should have, I think it's 10 inches here for the 10-inch zipper, or whichever fits you. It might be a smaller zipper. I'm not completely sure what standard sizes for US zippers are, so I'm sorry if I picked something strange. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a row here that goes around and is open here. And we're going to close it first, and then we're going to divide it up into 2 sections. So obviously one section for one leg and one for the other. And we're going to work those around on a pair of circular needles at the same time. And that just means that, so I just have this, so I'm just going to show you with these stitches instead. But imagine this is the bottom of the piece right now, and we need this to have one ball of yarn attached. This is for the one leg, and we need to have another ball of yarn attached. This is for the other leg. So you cannot do 2 at a time on the same circular needles with just one ball of yarn, obviously. But I will show you how to divide that, because it might be a little tricky exactly to understand how you do that. So first though, we just need to knit up until the part where we need to join for the round. So I'm just going to finish knitting this round and then I will return. Okay, so when you get to the end of this knit row, as I am here, what you're going to do is you're going to find the middle. So just slide your stitches out onto the cable, find the middle, and just divide these stitches in half. So basically I have the same number here as I have here. And then I am just grabbing the cable in between those 2 middle stitches, and I am pulling it out. And of course I am not pulling any of my needles out of any of my stitches. I'm just pulling the other half of the stitches onto the other needle, the one that was now empty. So here we are. Now, if you've never knit magic loop before, this is a little bit easier than you're probably thinking that it is. A lot of people find this very, very challenging to understand, but it's really nothing else than you imagine that your cable ends here, and you're just going to knit around, and you're not going to be able to see where these have parted and these have parted, so it's not it's not an issue. The only thing you do need to remember is to keep your yarn in the middle. So you're always looking at your right side, and you always have your 2 purl sides here together. You have your yarn in middle and not wrapped around the the sticks, the needles. And what you need to do is just take the needle out of the stitches which you've just knit. So where the yarn is attached, you just pull out that needle. And then just start knitting from the front. So these are the stitches that are, basically right now they are parted, right? But we're going to join these into a round. And be sure to tighten that first stitch. That's the only way you sort of know that you've closed the gap. And if you don't close it perfectly, that's not a problem. You will you can fix that later, because we are going to install the zipper right where that join is. So you can always sew it down if it became ugly, or if you have left a little bit of additional yarn. So I'm just going to knit to the end here, and then I'll just show you what it looks like when we're ready to switch to the other stitches, because right now I am knitting the front here, but the rest are resting, if you will, on the back, on the wire, on the cable in the back. So we'll just knit to the end. And at the end here, you will take the whole piece, still with the knit stitches facing you, then you flip it. And you have the other knit stitches facing you. And you're now going to take this needle that is out, and you're going to slide it into those stitches. And it's a bit harder when you don't have as many rows knit. It will be easier on yours because you have your entire the body here. So grab the yarn, make sure it's still in the middle, not wrapped around the needle here. And again, you will just pull your needle out of the stitches that you've just knit, and then you will continue on this front here, and you will continue working this way until you have the specified number of, I think it's inches, in the pattern. So just going to go around and around, and from now on there should be only knits. So that should be a little faster, well, for most of us anyway. For me, this is a lot faster than going back and forth in knit and then purl. Okay, when you've knit as long as you need, you're going to now divide them properly. I think I did it a little bit wrong in the beginning, but we're now going to do it correctly. So this is your front, and this is one leg, and this is the other leg. So obviously we don't want them as they are right now. So just put them out on the circulars again, and you will then divide it. So you have, this should be the front half of the stitches, and that should be the back half of the stitches. And so you're just going to, if you did it with me, I am sorry, but you're just going to count a fourth of the stitches here, and the fourth here, and then the half should be back here. You're just going to divide them again. I'm just going to do this on so I'm just putting this out on the cable, because now what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how to switch between the yarns. So, oops. This is my starting tail thread. Okay, so what we have now is we have a part here, which is going to be one leg, and a part here, which is going to be the other leg. And here you have the two sides, and you're going to have your zipper installed here. Okay? So, I can't exactly remember how I did in the pattern, but the principle is the same no matter when you switch the yarn. So here I have my first ball of yarn, which I have been using, and I'm just going to put that aside for now. And I am going to grab my other ball of yarn, and I'm just going to, when I continue working in this round, I'm just going to switch to that. And just do that by inserting your needle in the next stitch, like that. Then you grab your yarn, oops, and you insert it in the, can you hear my dog sleeping in the background? So, and you can tie this into a knot if you want to. Just leave a long tail to actually work in. There's nothing wrong with doing knots in your knitting, as long as you work in the tails later. But you cannot leave little knots in there. Which is also the problem if you find a knot in your yarn, because you really do have to sort of knit back so you have a little bit of yarn to work in. I have several sort of cheap sweaters that are knit where the parts where the yarn has been knotted sometimes pops out from the back to the front, and that is super annoying. Oh, this stitch is twisted. So what I'm doing now is I'm just knitting with this new ball of yarn. So I have my new yarn here, and I have the other yarn here attached to the middle. So I've just left it here. My round is still open, but when I come to the other side here, I will switch back to the first yarn, and that will separate the two so that we're going to have two legs, or two pent legs, rather than just one big round. So when I get to the end, I'm just going to again turn it around, put in the other needle here, like that. Then I'm going to pull out the back needle, and then I will continue working with the same yarn as I just did, because we're still on the same pant leg. So I will just knit half here. I'm not counting, by the way, so if this is completely off, then I am sorry. This is just a test piece to show you. So when I get to about halfway, is that about, yeah, let's say that's about halfway, I'm going to put this yarn down, and I am also going to just put it out of the way. And then from all the way back here, I have the tail now, and I have the yarn from the first ball here. This looks super messy, but this yarn comes from back here. I am going to grab that, and then I am going to knit the next stitch with that, and that will close the gap. But before I do that, I'm just going to place a yarn marker here so that I don't lose track of where this round ends. And this first stitch, just give it a real good tuck so that you don't get a gap between these two legs. Okay? And then you'll just knit around with this, and when you get to the front back here, you're again going to switch to this other yarn, and then back to this, and then over to this one, and then around and back to this one, and so on. And you're also going to decrease, and in the pattern it says how to decrease, and you're basically always decreasing in the middle. So you always knit around and decrease, and knit around and decrease, but you're only decreasing every other round. So decreasing once on the front, then you're knitting all the way around, then you're decreasing once on the back, all the way around, on the front, knit around, on the back, and so on. So you're going to have straight sides here, and then the middle is going to, what is that called? I can't remember what that's called, but you're going to have it be smaller and smaller in the middle, and you're going to form little legs. So I will knit a few rounds of this so that we can see that we're going to get two tubes forming. Alternatively, just put all of the stitches for one leg on either the circulars, or if you do prefer the smaller sock needles, DPNs I think they're called. Just do that instead, if that is your thing. So you're just going to knit one leg at a time, if that. I think this is much easier, but it's completely up to you. The other thing will have the exact same result. But you could just have all the stitches on one pair of circular needles and then just knit that, and then pick up the other stitches and then knit those afterwards. Yeah, so I will return once I have gotten a little further. When you get to a certain point, the gap between the legs will be so big that you can just remove these the stitch markers, because you don't need them anymore, to be sure of where you are. And as you can see here, I now have... You would knit much longer, so you would knit an actual pant leg 2 times. And then you could, if you want the ending that I have, you can just do a couple of rows of 2-2 rib, meaning purl 2, knit 2 in the round until you get there. So basically what you've been doing all this time, you're just going to do the same thing, but instead of just knitting, you're going to do 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, switch to the other side, knit 2, purl 2 until you get here to here, switch to the yarn, and then go on over here and do purl 2, knit 2, or knit 2, purl 2. All you need to be sure is that you have a stitch count, which can be divided by 4, because if you have 4 stitches, right, you have 2 knits and 2 purls, and therefore if you do something that can be divided by 4, you're always going to have it line up at the end, so you don't have 3 knits after each other or 4 knits after each other at the beginning and the end of each row. So, but the other thing, sorry, I lost track completely. But the thing that I wanted to show you, because doing ribbing is really not that difficult, and you would just do that for a couple of centimeters, so like an inch or 2, I think. But what I wanted to show you was how to end this one in a little sock, rather than just having it end in a piece of ribbing. So what I'm going to do is I am going to actually do a little bit of ribbing, and then just to pull it together a little bit so the sock is going to fit better. You probably have rib on top of all of your socks anyway. And then I am going to show you how to, you're going to knit a little bit, then we're going to turn a heel, and then we're going to knit the front, and we're going to end it in a little toe. So we're just going to decrease a little bit to make it a little bit narrower, and then we're going to kitchen stitch the remaining stitches at the end. And unfortunately, when we have it here like this, you could do it 1 at a time, or you could do it 2 at a time. And yeah, it's just the same twice, so it's not really an issue, but it might be a little hard to watch, so I'm sorry about that. But it really is exactly the same as knitting 2 socks at a time. You're also going to, when we're doing the short rowing, you are going to just do it on 1 pair of needles, and then the rest is done in the round. So we have to do all of these stitches and then all of these stitches. So we're going to do them this sock, then this sock, then this, until we're done with the entire thing. And I will show you that once I have just done a couple of rows of ribbing here. Okay, so here I am. I have knit a couple of rows of ribbing, and then a couple of rows of just plain, stockinette, basically, just knit around in knit stitches. And I've also turned 1 heel. Now you probably got the impression here that you cannot do anything on the one pant leg without also doing it on the other, because we are knitting in the round. That does not go for the short rows, because we are going to be knitting back and forth. So let me just take out this needle, and I will start creating a heel like this one on this pant leg. So first of all, also, or second or third, I don't know which number I'm on now, notice that I'm on the back. This is not where the zipper is going to go. This is where the zipper is going to go. So before you start, just be sure that you're actually on the back. You're not making heels on the front. That would be, well, I guess those children are there too. But I mean, for most children, you're probably going to want them on the back. So you're going to start by knitting until the last stitch. So knit every stitch here until the last. And this, by the way, I am improvising this heel, but I will upload a pattern, or a pattern for the specific stitch count that is on the original pattern for this one, and that should be on my website if I am done with it by the time this video goes up. So knit until the last one, and you can do whatever method for short rowing that you want to. I really like the German short rows, and they are made just by knitting up until that point, and then you slip the stitch here back to the left needle. I think this is my left hand, right? Then you turn the entire thing around, and instead of putting the yarn in front here, as you normally would, you're just going to drape it over put it over the right hand needle here, and you're going to pull it. So you're going to have a little knot there. You're going to have 2 strands of yarn in the front and 2 strands of yarn in the back. And then when you continue purling, you can just see it as sort of this monster stitch here. And if you'd rather wrap and turn or do Japanese short rows or something like that, you're very welcome. There's no right or wrong here. I think the short rows are amazing, and I think whichever method works for you, you should use, because they're just, they make it so much easier to knit. You get so many more. So can you say that? So much more. So you get many more opportunities. On the wrong side, you do exactly the same. So you knit until the last stitch, then you slip the stitch back to the left hand needle. Then you turn, and you put the yarn on top of the right hand here, and you pull it so that the knot is on top here. And then you are going to knit back. And what we want, and this is the essential part of this type of short rowing, is that you want this. So you want your monster stitch here, your the stitch that you've been pulling here, and then you want one clean stitch in between, and then you want to pull this stitch. So again, go in here, pass it back. You're going to flip your work. You're going to pull this stitch so that the little knot is going to be on top here, and then you're going to purl back until again you have one wrapped stitch or pulled stitch or whatever you want to call it, and then you have one clean normal stitch in between that has not been it has been knit, so that's the only thing it is really. Sorry, my camera shut off, but we're just going to do the same as we did before. So we're going to knit one stitch, pass it back, pull it, and then knit back. Until again we have one pulled stitch and one stitch in front. So that's here. This stitch has been pulled, it's sort of huge and unshapely, and then I have a normal stitch there. And then I am going to pass this stitch that I just knit back, pull it, and then purl until there is one stitch, and then a big stitch. And of course I can't remember if I said that already because I got distracted and I had to fix stuff, but I am going to make a pattern for this and put it up on my website so you can get the exact stitch count that is in the actual onesie, it's called. When we're done increasing, so now we've been increasing, right, or we've been decreasing the row, it's been becoming shorter. We're now going to pick up our wraps, and we're going to do that one at a time. So knit up until the next wrap or the next pulled stitch or what you want to call it, and you're just going to, now we're on the knit side, so we're just going to knit those two parts of that stitch together, and that's all there is to it. Now we have a clean stitch next to it, which we're just going to knit, pass back, and whoops, here, pull. So now I have two pulled stitches after each other, and I will show you how to deal with those when we return. So just purl until the next big stitch, next pulled stitch. That is this one, and now that we're on the purl side, we're just going to purl those two together. So the entire stitch and every all of the strands that go with that one stitch are just going to be purled together. Purl the next stitch, pull it, turn the work, and then knit back. And then we are going to I think that might be better. It's really difficult when you're zoomed in this far because you so easily go off screen. here we are, and the next stitch here is a big one, and we are going to knit those 2 legs together. The next one again is also a big one, just going to knit those 2 legs together as well, and then I get a normal stitch, which I am going to knit, pass back, turn the work and pull that stitch, and then purl back until you get to the other 2 pulled stitches that are in the other. Sorry, that was not a sentence at all. That is on the other side. So here we are. And again, we're just going to purl those 2 together. The next one looks like that. And we're also going to purl those 2 together. And then there is a single stitch, which I am just going to purl, pass back, and pull. And then I am going to knit until the other side. And here I have 2 left and then a normal stitch, and I'm just going to pick up those 2 pulled stitches like that, and then I'm going to knit the next one. And instead of pulling that, I'm actually just going to knit all the way around, and I will pick these 2 up from the knit side when I get back to them. So put this yarn down, pick up the yarn for the other foot, and knit that. If I can see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to knit across here. And there should have been some stitches for me to pick up here, but you know. And I will just do a couple of rows of plain knitting now. And then I will return and show you how to decrease for the toe. And that should be it, actually, for this video. And just to show you, that would perhaps help if I just showed you. So this is the one I did, where I actually have the socks rather than just ending it here. And it's going to look like this when we're done. Yeah. Minus, of course, the white stitches. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show you was just how to decrease for the toe. And what I do is I knit one, and then I do a slip, slip, knit. So slip and slip, and then knit those 2 together, like this. And then I will knit until I have 3 stitches left, so that wasn't a lot. I'm almost done here. And then I'm just going to knit 2 together, and that will make this side slant this way and this side slant that way. And then I knit the last stitch, of course. So I do this on the front and on the back, and then on every alternate row I just knit all of them. So I only decrease every other row. That was a very strange way of putting it, but you know. So slip, slip, and knit. Or any other left-leaning decrease you want or prefer. And then a right-leaning here. And then a knit 1. And we'll do the same on the back. And the first knit 1 is not strictly necessary, but I think it makes it look a little nicer. And you can see here that doing the directional decreases just gives it a nice rich, just so that our decreases can look intentional. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next Friday.